Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Law is Stranger Than Fiction. I'm one of your co-hosts, Barry Shull, a shareholder at Richards Brandt Miller Nelson here in Salt Lake City.
I'm your other co-host, Steven Bergman. I'm also a shareholder at Richards Brandt Miller Nelson. Today we have with us our partner, Jack Reed, who will be sharing an interesting story about auto theft gone awry. Jack?
Well, Steve, in this situation involved the theft of some rather expensive cars, Teslas, from the only dealership in Salt Lake City.
And how was this thefts first uncovered?
Initially, a Utah Highway Patroller officer was suspicious of a person driving a Tesla car and pulled it over, whereupon that driver claimed that he had been given the car and the keys by a man he hardly knew, and he really wanted to return the car to its rightful owner.
Any word if he was actually driving the car towards the Tesla dealership at the time of this incident?
No, there is no word actually that he was headed toward that Tesla dealership.
Okay. Did he ever explain how he actually came into possession of the car?
Well, initially he had the story that it had been given to him by a man he hardly knew. The officer obviously didn't believe him, so took him to the Tesla store, and upon arrival they found that it had been burglarized.
So how many cars, Jack, were ultimately involved in this theft or thefts?
Well, they're not entirely sure because of the changing nature of the case. As I said, the initial perpetrator said he'd been given the car, but when he got to the dealership and they found it was burglarized, he determined or told the officer that he thought since the dealership was open, it was perfectly okay to go in and take the car. Subsequently, the officers found additional Teslas had been stolen.
And how many Teslas have been taken, do we know?
A total of 4, the officers believe. They found another, while they were interrogating the first perpetrator, they saw another Tesla drive by the dealership. An officer pulled in behind that. That driver attempted to flee, but ran out of battery juice and was apprehended shortly thereafter.
And if I understand from the story, he actually claimed a familial connection. Is that right?
That's true, Steve. 2 of the perpetrators claimed that they were actually descendants of Nikola Tesla, who had no children.
And how long did they adhere to the fiction that they were Tesla descendants?
Up until the time the police ran their fingerprints at the jail.
So were their fingerprints already in the system?
Surprisingly enough, they were in the system.
So to loop back to the 2 cars that we haven't accounted for, were all 4 of the cars recovered in transit at the time of recovery?
No, Barry, they weren't. The 4th and final Tesla was recovered parked at a liquor store on the west side of town.
And how did that driver claim to have gotten the car?
She claimed that she had been given the car by a man named Tesla.
So 3 of these 4 thieves apparently had no knowledge that the car was not in fact named for the owner of the company.
I think that's a safe assumption. That although the newspaper reports it as a coordinated theft, I think that's being extremely generous.
All right, well, this is another strange story emanating here from Salt Lake City. If you have a strange legal occurrence or a legal problem that you need help with, please contact the attorneys at Richards Brandt Miller Nelson. And for now, this is Law is Stranger Than Fiction.